Hey, Gene Burnett from GeneBurnett.com. Hey, I'm out here at Bandon, Oregon, out at the Oregon coast, hanging out with some Tai Chi friends, doing some practicing and hanging out at the beach this weekend. Hey, I thought we'd talk a bit today about making your weaknesses, turning weaknesses or injuries even into opportunities. I've got a couple of structural imbalances that I've had my whole life. One of them is that my low back, one of my vertebrae overlaps another one in a funny way, and it leaves me prone to back problems and just being unstable back here in my low back. I noticed it when I was young. I couldn't stand for long periods of time. I couldn't bend over without actually doing a little bit of a twist in my spine to make it down. There was a tender spot. I got a job once where I had to stand all day sorting mail, and that kind of healed it to a certain degree. I found that I could bend over without doing the little wiggle thing. But still, it was always an unstable area. When I was younger, my middle years there, maybe say 20 to 40, I didn't notice it as much. It was there, but it was kind of in the background. But as I got older, I started to notice it more and more and more. And a couple of years ago, I was getting out of a car and I had a heavy backpack between my feet, and I turned like that and it went out, and man, it was really painful. About a week, I was like the evolution chart, every day I would come up a little bit higher, and it was very, very, very tender and very sore, and I started to put even more emphasis on strengthening my upper body and strengthening my core just to prevent that from happening again, which was a good thing. It made me focus a lot more on alignment and posture, even than I already was, which was a lot, but I focused on it even more, especially spinal length. And so this instability here has created an awareness of my back, an awareness of my spine that I might not have if I hadn't had that instability and hadn't had that issue. Also, over the years, because I don't have a super strong structure back here, I've developed a priority when I do Tai Chi of focusing more on recovering structure than on maintaining structure, because I can't really maintain structure that well under pressure. Like when I'm doing push hands and stuff, when somebody pushes, to a certain degree I can kind of take it into my body, but to a certain degree I can't because of the low back thing. It's a structural weakness. So rather than maintaining structure as I practice, as I live, as I do partner work, I've had to focus more on recovering structure, because I know I'm going to lose it because of that structural weakness. So I'm going to lose that structure, and I focus more and more on recovering structure, which actually developed into a whole training priority for me in life and in practice, that to not fight so hard for posture and structure, and instead to think about recovering and holding an idea of structure, but when it's disturbed, to come back to it again. So rather than think of myself as like a tree, I think of myself as more like a flame. So the flame is in motion all the time. When it gets still, the flame gets in hardly any motion. It gets very, very close to still. But as soon as you move the flame, it starts to distort, right? But as soon as you stop, it starts to align itself again. So that's the kind of philosophy that I've developed in my life. Like, I'm not trying to be undisturbable or at perfect peace all the time. I know my peace is going to get disturbed. I know my spine is going to get disturbed. I know my posture is going to get disturbed by life, by partners, by training partners, by gravity, by time, by aging. I know this is going to happen. And so I work on recovery. How smoothly and how easily can I get back to that place? So it's a little bit different than trying to maintain structure all the time and holding that as an ideal. I know I'm going to lose it. And so it suits me as a life philosophy as well, because all of our structures are temporary. Nature actually doesn't like structures. It doesn't like any form. Nature is hostile to all forms. All forms are constantly being destroyed, ground up, like these rocks are being ground up to be sand, and each grain of sand is aging and splintering and fracturing and becoming something else. Everything's becoming something else. Everything's a verb, really, right? Everything's becoming something else. There's no such thing as structure. Structure is all temporary. It's just when the structure is very, very slow moving, it seems very stable. Like a rock seems more stable than a glass of water, but really in the long run they're not. Everything's changing, everything's being turned into something else, so why not me? So because of this low back thing, I've had to develop a different training priority and a different way of looking at stuff that actually leads me to something that I really like, that's closer to the way I think life is. Whereas if I had had a strong structure back here, I might have put a lot of emphasis on maintaining structure. I might be a lot more earth-like and a lot more solid in my forms and a lot less watery and loose and adaptable. So I could have gone a different route, which isn't a bad route. It's just that I'm talking about using what might be considered a weakness and turning it into something that I consider a strength. Other issue I have is that my tendons and my ligaments are soft and they're easily sprained or damaged. They have been my whole life. It's a constitutional thing. I've tried all kinds of different exercises and stuff, and it makes me a little more sturdy, but my ligaments in general are soft. And so I'm more likely to get an injury to my joints. So because of that, I've had to pay more attention. My back going out was another example of this. Because of this, I had to pay more attention to the smaller circles. So rather than the big extreme motions getting way out, to the far reaches of what I can do, I've had to focus more on bringing my core to things and focusing more on the smaller circles, more on how little can I exert out here and bring my body to things, which is a martial priority in general. People talk about small circle, medium circle, small circle, large circle, medium circle, small circle. And I've had to do that naturally because I can't do the big circles as well. I can't jump out to the edges. I can't do whippy strikes as easily as some people can. So I've had to focus more on bringing my body to my target, keeping things smaller and closer in, and the small circles and the little gyrations and spirals and things that I can get close to home. And so, again, I've taken something that's a liability or a weakness or an injury, and I've turned it into what I think is a strength, because I don't waste a lot of energy. I've learned to be very efficient, When I come home and my backpack is heavy and it's sitting in the milk crate on the back of my bicycle, I walk up to it and I just take it in my hand and I just stand up and I walk. I use as little energy as possible. I don't yank stuff or jerk stuff around as much because I'm much more prone to injury that way. So I've had to use these things. So sometimes I've had an injury that prevented me to go to a certain extreme, and I've used that to teach me to not go to that extreme, to stay closer to the center where my strength is. So I think it's a good thing in life to take what might be a weakness of yours and see how you can make it a strength. Maybe not a super strength, but see how you can use it as an opportunity to learn more and to study more and to put a different spin on things. Sometimes I've seen people just push and push and push and complain and just rail against their limitations, when actually they could be real teachers. They could help you find a way of being that's more suited to your nature. So adapt. Be like that stuff. That stuff over there between those rocks. Be like that stuff. Adapt to the situations you're in. You'll find your expectations get a little lower. You're more in touch with what's actually going on. You complain less. You're more focused on dealing with what you have to work with. We all have trials. We all have things to work with. So see if you can turn them into an opportunity, maybe even a strength. All right, I'm going to get back to practicing. Signing off from Bandon, Oregon. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do lots of music videos, Tai Chi videos, nature videos. And visit my website, GeneBurnett.com, for more information.